Welcome to part 3 of our ballet style series. Today, we're going to take a look at the New York City Ballet, or the Balanchine style, which is hugely influential throughout the United States. Although we can't quite call it the American style because American Ballet Theater is another conversation altogether. First, let's take a look at where it started. The founder, the choreographer George Balanchine, was actually trained at the Imperial School in St. Petersburg, which is now the Mariinsky. And many of the early School of American Ballet teachers, School of American Ballet is New York City Ballet's official school, were out of this same Russian tradition. Knowing this, it may surprise you that in the ballet world, the New York City Ballet style and the Russian or the Vaganova style are considered near total opposites. And there are actually a lot of specifics that we could get into. The fingers, the preparation for pirouettes, the takeoffs for jumps. But today, we're going to take a look at the fundamentals that really make this style its own dialect. First of all, speed is top priority, but it's not just moving fast for its own sake, but for a lightning-quick precision in the musical dynamics. And the movement has a jazzy, off-balance quality that's also built into the choreography that merges with classical technique. The Balanchine piece, Rubies, from the triptych ballet Jewels, perfectly embodies these descriptors. This piece was made as an homage to New York City, to its speed, to its modernity, and we see right away this jazzy quality in the movement. We aren't languishing in grand poses. It's a continuous motion and use of silence, syncopation, and purposeful off-balance. Here, let's take a look at the inimitable New York City Ballet principal dancer, Sara Mearns, in Balanchine's masterpiece, Serenade. And right away, if we know what to look for, we'll notice this dynamic off-balance movement as opposed to any held poses. But if we look at Paris Opera étoile Laura Eke in a different section from the same ballet, we'll notice that she has an inclination to hold a pose upright, as opposed to falling out of it, or rather falling through it. It's a little tricky to catch because this is also part of the choreography where she would fall through these arabesques. But if you look closely, or at least if we look a few times over, we'll start to see that her inclination is to stay standing up straight because that's the classical French training as opposed to the jazzy off-balance Balanchine / New York City Ballet training. Whereas when we look at Sara Mearns and the other artists from New York City Ballet or other Balanchine style companies, we really see them attack and lean into the off-balance movement through the steps and the momentary poses. And what's really interesting to note is that once you really get to know this style, you'll come to understand it as almost not only its own style, but its own genre of dance. So much so that classically trained dancers, even some of the best in the world, will have a difficult time going from a different kind of training coming into a Balanchine style company. Do you have a favorite style so far between the Russians, the French, and the New York City Ballet style? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't had a chance to watch the first 2 parts of this series, I'll link the videos above. There are certainly other schools and countries that are producing some of the best dancers in the world. Take the Cubans, for example, who for political reasons that we'll get into in another video, were highly influenced by the Russians, but they certainly have their own flavor, their own dialect within this heavily influenced Russian style. And then there are incredible dancers coming out of Asia and South America. Think Hiso, the principal ballerina at American Ballet Theater, Seyoon Park, the étoile from Paris Opera Ballet, Marianela Nunez, and we haven't even touched on the Scandinavian influence, or the British, who were not only influential in their own homes, but in other countries such as Turkey and Iran. Yes, you heard me, Iran used to have a great ballet company before the revolution. Which brings me to a video that we have coming up, an interview with the US's only Iranian principal ballerina. And we're gonna get into the influence and the history of classical ballet in the Middle East. Thanks for watching. I'm Cynthia Dragoni, The Dance Lens.